You're listening to Eating for Eden, episode 38. When it comes to doing something about climate change, your food choices matter. Thanks for tuning in to Eating for Eden, a podcast that takes a food-first approach to climate action. I'm your host, Jessica J. Schroeder, and I am passionate about food that tastes good and does good. I'll guide you with practical tips and help you thoroughly enjoy your food along the way. Happy New Year! This is the first episode in a 4-part series for January that I'm calling Progress Over Perfection. At a time of year when many of us start new things with gusto, only to burn out a month or two later, I want to encourage an approach that is realistic, sustainable, and grace-filled. Eating more plant-based is a worthy goal, and taking an intentional approach will set you up best for success. Make sure you're subscribed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or whatever platform you're listening on to be sure you don't miss the other episodes in this series. Before diving into today's episode, I wanted to tell you that I've developed a resource to help you maximize what you get out of this series. And for a limited time, listeners can receive 25% off with the code PROGRESS25 at checkout. That's PROGRESS25. Head over to the store at edenandme.com to check out the Beginner's Guide to Eating Plant-Based. See the show notes for a link. Also, if you would like additional support beyond the podcast and self-directed guide, let's work together. I offer one-on-one coaching, and I'd love to connect with you to see how I can help you build intentional habits toward worthy goals. Reach out to me at edenandme@substack.com for more information. This email address is also in the show notes. Okay, with that, let's dive on into our first Progress Over Perfection episode, Part 1. Today's focus? Make a commitment. Commit to progress. Don't aim for perfection. Aim to take meaningful steps of action that move you in the direction of eating more plant-based in a sustainable manner. Let's get theoretical for a moment. I promise you it will be interesting. Pursuing habit formation is much more powerful than pursuing goals. I'll say that again. Pursuing habit formation is much more powerful than pursuing goals. It's the difference between simply achieving something, a goal that, once you reach it, is replaced by another goal, and actually becoming the sort of person who does these sorts of things, and that over the long term. What's more, while many of us can fail to attain particular goals, or even find that our goals morph over time, it is possible to experience meaningful success right now, day by day, through habit formation, which is focused on today, current everyday rhythms, rather than someday off in the future. I got this life-changing idea from a terrific 5-minute read on the Farnham Street blog. In essence, this blog post considers the benefits of pursuing habit formation over setting goals. If you'd like to give it a quick read yourself, which I highly recommend, I have linked that in the show notes. To summarize this blog post, the 4 problems with goals are that 1. Goals have an endpoint. 2. Goals rely on factors that we don't always have control over. 3. Keeping a goal in mind and using it to direct our actions requires a lot of thinking and effort to evaluate different options. And 4. Goals can make us complacent or reckless. On the other hand, 5 benefits are presented for habits. 1. Habits can mean that we actually end up overshooting our goals, thus goals might actually hinder us. 2. Habits are easy to complete. 3. Habits are for life. Remember the first problem with goals, that they have an endpoint. 4. Habits can compound. And 5. Habits can be as small as necessary. I love that last point especially, because when you commit to making progress by adopting certain practices or habits, you can start as small as need be. Start where you are, do what you can, and build from there. Of course, just having a general sense of I'm committing to progress is unlikely to get you very far. While I am promoting habit formation rather than goal setting per se, It is important to get specific about action steps that will guide and shape your habit formation. If you want to become the sort of person who runs and enjoys running, for example, you won't get there by vaguely committing to progress in the area of running. You actually have to plan to get outside and run, or make time to get to a gym to use a treadmill or track. What does it look like then to commit to progress with regard to plant-based eating? Start with assessing where you are. What is your current normal? How many days a week or even meals a day do you consume meat, particularly beef? How much cheese do you consume on a regular basis? Take a look at the top emitters, assess how regularly you consume them, and see where you can make meaningful swaps. Such swaps can look like beans, lentils, or mushrooms for beef, tofu or chickpeas for chicken, nuts, tofu, nutritional yeast, or other tasty condiments for cheese, and so on. Listen to episodes 10, 19, and 21 for more ideas and practical guidance on plant-based swaps. Also, episodes 5, 15, 29, and 30 provide tips for making plants delicious, regardless of whether you're an avid cook or would rather spend as little time in the kitchen as possible. All these are linked in the show notes. Now back to this idea of taking a look at the top emitters. For a visual overview of high versus low emissions foods, see the Our World in Data chart linked in the show notes. This one shows greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram of food. There are other charts available on Our World in Data, such as comparisons between foods per 1,000 calories, per 100 grams of protein, how emissions for each food are distributed across the supply chain, and more. There are a lot of charts, so feel free to browse and check out other ways that they parse the data. But since you're likely going to be making one-for-one swaps for meat and or dairy, it's likely that the greenhouse gas emissions per kilogram of food chart, which I've linked, will be the most informative for you. Once you've assessed where you are, determine what challenges you're willing to start making. Will you omit all of one particular food, such as beef? Will you reduce the number of days per week you eat meat? Will you swap out dairy milk for a plant-based alternative? Ask yourself how reasonable your starting place is. Is this something you'll realistically be able to stick to week after week? If not, try a slightly smaller step to start. I also encourage you to make a list of changes that you'd like to make over time, maybe ordering them in stages. So, for example, start with one change for a few weeks, then add in another change once the first one has caught on, and so forth. Make incremental progress over time. Once you've settled on a realistic starting point, next, plan what you'll eat instead. To ensure you'll stick to your change, you have to have an idea of what you will use instead. We don't simply stop eating certain foods. We exchange them for something else. Without a game plan, it's all too easy to get overwhelmed and succumb to decision fatigue. However you meal plan and prep for grocery shopping, insert this step into your rhythm of deciding what to cook and acquiring your ingredients. Then when it comes time to shop and cook, you'll already have made the tough decisions and can have fun with the food prep. The first step to making progress is committing to making progress. Then take steps to form sustainable habits. Take some time to assess and plan ahead, and you'll be well poised for success. In last week's introductory episode to this series, I noted a few helpful tips to keep in mind as you pursue progress this January and beyond. 1, if you slip up, start again tomorrow. 2, slow and steady wins the race. And 3, don't go it alone. On that last note, who will you tell about your commitment to making progress in this area? Choose to tell someone. Don't go it alone. Have someone who can cheer you on. Maybe it's a friend who is also seeking to make change in this area, and you can support one another. Or maybe there's someone who is already further ahead on this journey and is able to provide ideas, reality checks, and encouragement. Regardless, find someone to share your commitment with. And I'm here to support you too. Be sure to tune in for the rest of the episodes in this series. And don't forget, as I mentioned at the top of the episode, I have a new resource available on eatintome.com that will help you maximize what you're learning in these episodes. This ebook is a self-paced guide that is designed to walk you through essential guiding principles and exercises to help you achieve sustainable progress in plant-based eating. I can't wait to hear about your journey. If you have questions or want to suggest a topic for a future episode, I'd love to hear from you. Send an email to Eden and me at substack.com. Also, if you've been enjoying this podcast, please consider leaving a review. I'd love to grow the reach of this podcast in 2025, and I need your help to do so. So thank you in advance. If you want recipes, head on over to edenandme.com, where you can find a variety of delicious recipes to bring what you're learning into the kitchen. Finally, become an email subscriber on Substack to have new podcast episodes delivered right to your inbox. If you appreciate the work I'm doing and want to support the show, you'll also have the option of becoming a paid subscriber. That's all for now, friends. Until next time, be well. Thanks for listening to Eating for Eden. If you found this episode informative or inspiring, please consider sharing it with a friend. Climate change is an issue we all need to tackle together, so let's invite others to journey along with us as we continue the conversation and start taking action. Until next week, friends, take care.